Christ lives in me. That is the revelation of this age. That is the discovery of the moment. That is the revolutionizing power of God in the earth. It is the factor that is changing the spirit of religion in the world and the character of Christian faith. It is a divine energizing. The world is awakening to that marvelous truth that Christ isn't only in the heavens or only in the atmosphere, but Christ is in you. The world lived in darkness for thousands of years. There was just as much electricity in the world then as now. It's not just that electricity has come into being, it was always here. But men have discovered how to utilize it and bless themselves with it. Christ's indwelling in the human heart is the mystery of mysteries. Paul gave it to the Gentiles as the supreme mystery of all the revelation of God and the finality of all wonder he knew. Christ in you. Christ in you. Christ has a purpose in you. Christ's purpose in you is to reveal himself to you, through you, and in you. We repeat over and over that familiar phrase, the church, which is his body. But if we realize the truth of it and the power of it, this world would be a different place. When the Christian church realizes that they are the tangible, living, pulsating body, flesh, and bones, and blood and brain of Jesus Christ, and that God is manifesting through each one every minute and is endeavoring to accomplish his big will for the world through them, not through some other body, then Christian service and responsibility will be better understood. Jesus Christ operates through you. He doesn't operate independently of you. He operates through you. Man and God become united. That is the divine secret of a real Christian life. It's the real union, the real conscious union of man and God. There's no substitute for that relationship. You can manufacture all the ordinances on earth, all the symbols there ever were, until you become dazed and you lose yourself in the maze of them, and still, you must still find God. There's only one reality. That reality is God. The soul of man must contact God. And unless the spirit of man is truly joined to God, there is no such thing as real Christian manifestation. All the processes of preparation, by which a soul is prepared by God for such a manifestation, are only preliminary processes. The final end is that man may reveal God, and that God may not only have a place of residence, but a right action in the body and spirit of man. Every spirit-taught man in the world is aware of how gradually his own nature has become subjected to God and his will. I was visiting a gentleman who had a problem with me. He said, "I wrote you a 24-page letter and you haven't received it. If you had, you wouldn't be here." I laughed. That man has been a Christian for 30 or 40 years, always a devout man, and I've spoken of him frequently to my wife and my friends as one of the most consistent Christian men I ever knew. Yet, every once in a while, we see how the big human just rises up above the spirit and spoils the beauty and delight and wonder of the life that is revealing God. God's effort and God's purpose in us is to bring all the conditions of our being into harmony with his will and his mind. God's purpose isn't to make a puppet. We see a ventriloquist operating a little wooden dummy, and the wooden dummy's lips move, and it looks as though it's talking. but it's just moving because another power is moving it. Now, God has a higher purpose than making man a puppet. God's highest is to bring out all the qualities of God in your own soul, to bring out all the individuality that's in your life, not to submerge or destroy, but to change it, to energize it, to enlarge it, until all your individuality and personality and being are of the nature and substance and quality of God. You notice among the most devout Christians how continuously their thought is limited to that place where they can be exercised or moved by God. But God's best is more than that. Receive the Spirit, then use the Spirit for God's glory. While I was in Chicago, I met a couple of old friends who invited me to dinner. While at dinner, the lady, who is a very frank woman, said, "Mr. Lake, I've known you so long and have had such close fellowship for so many years. I'm about to speak very frankly." I said, "Yes, absolutely." "Well," she said, "there's something I miss about you. For lack of words, I'm going to put it in Paul's words. I bear in my body the marks of the Lord Jesus. You don't seem to have the marks of Jesus." I said, "That depends on whether or not it is the marks of mannerisms. If you're expecting that the personality that God gave me is going to be changed so that I'm going to be another fellow and not myself, then you'll miss it. If that's the kind of marks you're looking for, you won't find them. But if you're expecting to observe a man's flesh and blood and bones and spirit and mind indwelt by God, then you'll find them. Not a machine, not a robot or an imitation, but a clear mind and a pure heart. A son of God in nature and essence. What is all God's effort with the world but to bring out the real man in the image of Christ? That real man with the knowledge of God. That real man reconstructed until his very substance is the substance of God. And when you stop to reason that to its proper conclusion, that is the only way that Jesus Christ himself, or God the eternal Father, will have fellowship with man forever. When one stops to analyze that fact, we see that God is trying to make us in all of our nature and being and habits and thought, in all the structure of our life, just as beautiful and just as real and just as clear-minded and just as strong as Jesus himself. Then we understand what Christ's redemption means. It's the bringing out of Christ in you, until Christ in you is the one manifest. Manifest through your eyes, just as God was manifest through the eyes of Jesus. Manifest through your touch, just as God was manifest through Jesus. It's not a power or a life separate from yourself, but two lives made one. Two natures co-joined. Two minds operating as one. Christ in you.